Hello guys, welcome back to yet another keyword in our series called Ethics Keyword Series, and the word that we are going to discuss, or the term that we are going to discuss, is duties, right? Let's understand the word duty. Now the word duty comes from the Latin word called debere, which means to owe, right? It means to owe. It comes from the word debere. Now let's understand what duty means. Like, we use it very commonsensically, but let's understand. Like, these kind of understanding will elevate your marks, right? Duties are ought statements. Ought statements. They express what should be done. What should be done? What should you do? Right? They are ought statement. They are not optional. Duties are not based on personal choices or preferences. Right? Duties means that it is imposed. It's not based on your personal choices. Right? And your obligation is greater. Your obligation is greater than your personal preference. That is your duty. Your obligation to act or not to act is greater than what? Than your personal preferences. Example, it is my duty to follow the traffic rule. It is my duty, right? It is imposed. By whom? By the government. In this case, it is greater than the, personal preference to break the, traffic rules, not to wear helmet or, speed up, right? Your duty is what? Your duty is always great. Like, in case of your duty, your obligation is greater than what? Your personal choices or your personal preferences. Now, this is the most important thing. Whenever you write, you write your obligation greater than personal choices, and then you give an example. The best example, again, your Article 51AG, the duty to protect the environment, right? And in this particular case, let's understand the definition as well. Each and every word is important. Just remember, in case of duties, what did we understand? That your obligation is greater than your personal preferences. That your obligation to follow the traffic rule is greater than speeding up or not wearing the helmet. So, in definition goes in this way: it is an obligation or responsibility. Look, obligation or responsibility, whether moral or legal. Moral or legal means that whether it comes from within you. Kant will say that duty means that it's a moral force that comes within you, right? Or legal, like example, your traffic rules. It's legal because the government has instituted, right? So, it is an obligation or responsibility, whether moral or legal, that compels. Again, a very important word, that compels you to act or not act, right? Act or not act in certain ways, right? That compels you to act or not act. It also can be not acting also. For example, let's say it's my moral duty not to act along the corrupt direction given by my superiors. I'm not acting. I will not do that. I will say that, no, I will not act on these orders, right? That is also, again, a moral duty, right? Not acting is also a moral duty, right? Or acting against such unlawful directions or unlawful orders, right, is also your moral duty, right? Okay, now let's understand. Okay, now let's understand the philosophical and civilizational foundation of duty. And in Indian tradition, we have seen in Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita that it has prescribed what? It has prescribed duties by nature and birth. That is Swadharma. And one of the very famous quote from Bhagavad Gita is in your second chapter and verse 47. It says, Karmanya vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Right? Which means what? It means you have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your action. We know, like, basically your karma yoga, right? Now, we have understood the Indian tradition, right? Now, let's understand the Western tradition. In Western tradition, one of the famous philosophers who have commented on duty is your Immanuel Kant. Famously said, duty is for duty's sake. So what he says is that a person acting from duty does the right thing because it is right. And I will tell you the reason also. So it is Ausgleich, right? The term is Ausgleich. Now, why he says that? Remember, in the definition, either it is a legal compulsion or a moral compulsion, right? So duty is a moral compulsion to act or not act, because it is a moral compulsion, right? So, because you are a moral being and you are compelled towards acting or to act, that's the reason why Kant says that a person acting from duty, because it's a duty means what? It's a moral compulsion, right? Does the right thing because it is right. It has to be right. Okay. Okay, now let's see some of the examples. Duty versus other ethical values. The first is duty versus rights, right? Duty versus rights. So, when the state's duty to maintain security or order conflicts with constitutional rights, the best example will be your Pentagon papers, right? Pentagon papers. So the state's duty is what? To maintain security, right? Every state's duty is to maintain security, right? It conflicts with what? It conflicts with constitutional rights, right? It conflicts with constitutional rights. So here Nixon administration tried to stop the New York Times from publishing classified documents, right? It's a very famous movie also made on this. The Nixon government, who was accused in Watergate, right, scandal, they forced, or they were actually stopping New York Times to from releasing those documents, right? But the Supreme Court did what? The Supreme Court upheld freedom of press and asked that those documents should be released. This is one of the best examples where the duty of the state is to protect versus the right of the people to know, right? The right of the people to know, right? Constitutional right. In this particular case, our Article 19. Okay, another example where we see that the duties is in conflict with constitutional right is when there was a conflict between Apple and FBI in 2015, when the FBI asked the shooter of San Bernardino, there was an active shooting, to unlock his iPhone, right? But Apple said what? Apple said that no, we can't do that. It argued that a backdoor would undermine citizens' privacy rights. Like backdoor in the sense, like backdoor with regards to, without the knowledge of that particular person opening his phone, right? Would allow to do what? Was allow to allow the state to come with another request, right? And it will do what? It will corrupt the so-called the privacy law of the country, right? We have understood duty versus rights. Now let's understand duty versus justice, right? In case of duty versus justice, strict adherence to law, strict adherence to orders is your duty as a civil servant, right? Or as a judge or whoever it is. But the strict adherence might lead to what? Might lead to moral, or might lead to moral injustice. And this has happened. One of the best example, one of the crudest example would be Adolf Eichmann trial in 1961. What did he say? That it is my duty to adhere to the orders that was given to me. I did not have any role. I had merely an administrative role to follow the orders. Every Nazi that were caught and were being tried, and Nuremberg said that we were under the administrative compulsion to follow the orders that was given by somebody else, right? I was just following orders, but at what cost? The cost of killing millions of Jews, right? So he says what? He says that he was only performing bureaucratic duty under the Nazi law, right? But you're doing what? You're following this duty, right? At the cost of what? At the cost of compromising the moral injustice, right? One of the goriest example will be in 2017, when a girl was died of starvation. An 11-year-old girl died of starvation because what? Because she did not have proper documentation, and the district administration was following the duty to do what? Was following the duty to adhere to the rules established, the laws established, right? Forgetting what? Substantive justice. Forgetting what? Compassion and substantive justice. Procedural compliance over substantive justice and compassion, right? Again, when it comes to duty and when it comes to justice, you have to take a very fine call. Let's see another such dilemma. We have duty versus autonomy. Now, when institutional duty, whatever the institution is, duty clashes with individual conscience. The best example will be Novak Djokovic in the year 2022. Like, he's a multiple Grand Slam winner, right? In 2022, he refused to, COVID-19 vaccine. He is an anti-vaxxer. Like, he refused to take vaccine, and the Australian institution, the Australian government said that if you don't take this particular vaccine, you will be deported. You will be deported because it's our duty as an institution maintain the integrity of what? Integrity of the rules and the regulations of the country. You cannot just flout those rules and regulations. So he refused. Djokovic refused because it is against his conscience to take vaccine, and he was asked to leave. He was not allowed entry into the country. One of the prime examples in India will be what? Your Aruna Shanbhog case of 2011. The duty of the doctor is to keep patient alive, right? again, it is their medical ethics, highlighted the conflict between doctors' duty to preserve life. But it goes against what? Person's autonomy, person's dignity, right? It goes against what? Person's autonomy and dignity, right? Again, this is a case where there is a debate, there is a conflict between duty and what? Duty and autonomy of a person, right? Let's see another example. Now let's understand the contemporary administrative application of duty, right? Now it is very fascinating that duty as a concept is woven in the fabric of public administration and policy. It is very instituted itself in the public policy, right? Let's see the first example. Bureaucracy and civil services. Like in Lok Sabha election 2024, the Election Commission enforced the model code of conduct through C-Vigil, right? It enforced the model code of conduct through C-Vigil. Now, what does it do? It reinforces the constitutional duty of IAS officers and DEOs to maintain electoral neutrality. Anybody can lodge a complaint in that particular C-Vigil, right? It is in order to ensure that whoever the public servant is, right, whoever the district election commissioner or election officer is, DO, district electoral officer, right, they should maintain the constitutional ethos. They should mention the neutrality of conducting a free and fair election, right? So this is one of the examples where the duty is integrated in the bureaucracy itself. What is the second example? IAS Siddharth Jaswal in 2024-25 through Mission Sankalp in Tripura, he treated child protection as an administrative duty, not merely as a welfare scheme. Right? It's not just a welfare scheme, it is his administrative duty to do what? To ensure that the children are protected, right? Now let's see how duties is instituted in accountability and transparency. In CAG audit of Jal Jeevan Mission 2024-2025, it said what? It said CAG exposed the failures of officials in fulfilling their duty to provide safe drinking water and conduct water, quality checks. Again, it exposed the failure of the duty of the civil servant. Again, duty is instituted in where? Transparency and accountability. Let's see another example. Rajasthan social audits of 2024-25. Gram Sabha audit enforced bureaucrats' duty towards what? Towards properly distributing Manrega funds and PMAY from Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana funds, right? Whistleblowing is a very part and parcel of our administration, and very famously, if you remember Adani Hindenburg fallout, right? It revealed what? It revealed that SEBI had a regulatory duty towards ensuring what? Ensuring the small investors whose money are there in the stock market, right? So again, this particular issue, Adani Hindenburg fallout, the report released certain controversial statements against Adani, and the market fell. So it again showcased what? It showcases the duty of the SEBI to protect the small investors, right? Let's see another example. Again, in Union Bank of India policy 2023-2024, it revised its whistleblower rules and emphasized that employees' professional duty to report corruption rather than remain silent. Just imagine, a government bank has revised its whistleblowing rule and said that you can't be silent when if you see even an iota of corruption, you have to report it. Now let's see some other examples. In one of the classic cases, one of the watershed moment of our judiciary, in MK Ranjit Singh Union versus Union of India 2024, the Supreme Court connected environmental protection with the constitutional duty under Article 48A and 51AG, right? So again, it's environmental protection is a part of our constitutional duty. What is the second example where duty is again found in our administration? It is digital accessibility for PWDs. The court declared that it is declared that accessible digital governance a constitutional duty flowing from equality and dignity, right? So digital access for the disabled, right, or the Divyang, right? It's what? It's a constitutional duty flowing from what? It is flowing from equality and dignity, right? Now let's see some of the quotations. One of the very famous quote by Rabindranath Tagore, the Nobel laureate. He says, "I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was duty." And then comes a punchline. "I acted and behold, duty was joy." Again, if you see it is as a moral compulsion to act in a good manner, it will become a joy. So again, a very famous quote by none other than erstwhile President of US, John F. Kennedy. He says that, "Don't ask what the country can do for you, ask what you can do for the country." Right? A very famous quote that has been made by John F. Kennedy. And the motto of BSF, the Border Security Force Jawans, and what is the motto? The motto is Jeevan Paryant Kartavya. That is duty unto death. Again, duty comes, right? Duty comes unto death. This is the last frontier, right? This is the last frontier, right? Again, we see in 2022, UPSC is asked to, write in 30 words about devotion to duty. Devotion to duty, you can, like, how do you write this answer? First of all, you can define, right? You can give the genesis, the Indian tradition genesis of chapter 2, verse 47, right? Then you can mention about some of the features, right? And some of the examples which we have discussed, right? And very briefly, in maximum like 30, 40, 50 words, not more than that. Let's see another question. In 2025, this year, UPSC had asked a question. It says, one who is devoted to one's duty attains highest perfection in life. Analyze the statement with reference to sense of responsibility and personal fulfillment as a civil servant, right? Now again, sense of responsibility. So your duty should be tempered with what? Your duty should be tempered with your constitutional values, right? Again, one who is devoted to one's duty attains highest perfection in life, right? Why you will attain highest perfection in life? Because you are morally driven. You are morally driven to act, right? And statement with reference to sense of responsibility and personal fulfillment. You can mention some of the personal fulfillment that has been, like we have given an example, right? We can mention those examples as well as a personal fulfillment, okay?
It was my dream.
Sometimes, to do what's right, we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most, even our dreams.